So welcome to the first video, which we're going to discuss what is the human mind. Now, throughout this whole series of videos, I'm going to be presenting to you information that is possibly new to you that you've never heard before, or may challenge the current way you think about things. Now, I know that your first reaction may be quite reticent. You may not, because we're going to get quite spiritual about things, and I don't mean like talking about God and that kind of thing, but we're going to be talking about the non-physical aspects of you, like the things, obviously the physical aspects of like your body, right? The things that you can touch, the things that you can see. But when we get into realms of talking about the mind, we're getting into the realms of things that are non-physical, things that can't be seen. And once we begin to do that, things can get a little bit strange. So I want you to approach what we're saying, the things that we're going to discuss, with an open mind, okay? And the reason that I say that is that if you are in a position where you're depressed or you're stressed or you're anxious, Einstein said a problem cannot be fixed with the same level of thinking that got into the problem in the first place. So if you're in a current situation, the way that you think and the way that you feel and the way that you act is what's got you to where you are right now. And unless those thoughts, feelings, and actions change, nothing can change. If you continue to think, feel, and act like you have been doing up till now, you will continue to think, feel, and act and get the same results that you've been getting up till now. So I'm going to present things to you in a different way. And this is going to be starting with, what is the mind? Okay? And this is, it took me ages to understand this, but whenever actually, if you think back to when you were in school, when you were in education, when were you actually taught anything about the human mind, what it is, how it works, what its use is? We never, I certainly never, and I don't know anybody that's been to school who has ever been taught anything about the human mind. And I think that's done for a reason, because if a man understands his mind and what it's for and how it can be used and how powerful the mind is, then you will have a nation of people who are extremely powerful, extremely strong, and cannot be manipulated. So I think there's a reason that we're not taught about the mind. So let's dive straight into it, right? What is the mind? So to begin with, the mind is the non-physical part of you. Your mind is the non-physical part of you. Now, to give you an idea of what I mean by that, is that you have a physical aspect, which is your body, and then you have a spiritual or a non-physical part of you, which is your mind. And this is where your thoughts reside. Okay, so your mind is the non-physical part of you, and for the rest of this series of videos, we're going to be talking about the non-physical part of you, the part that cannot be touched. Okay, and then we're going to look at how the non-physical part of you interacts with the physical part and how they interact with each other to produce the effects that you have in your life. Okay. And the basic premise that we're going to use throughout all of these videos is this. Thoughts are things. Now, this is not something I've made up, okay? This is something that I came to understand through reading a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. If you haven't read that book, I suggest you go and read it. I'll leave a link on this page somewhere. The book is that old, it's not in copyright, so you can actually download PDF versions of it quite easily. You can also get copies of it on Amazon for like £5. It's a very, very cheap book and will be the best money you've ever spent on a book in your life. And what Napoleon Hill talks about in that book is that thoughts are not idle. They are not just things that happen in your head that have no consequence. Okay, he describes the idea that your thoughts eventually find their way to becoming a physical reality. Okay, and to illustrate that idea, everything that exists that has been made by a human being, let's take the iPhone that I'm filming this on, for example. The iPhone began as a thought in the mind of Steve Jobs. Okay, he thought about how he wanted to solve a problem, and he thought about it and he thought about it, and eventually the iPhone was born through his thoughts. It began with a thought in his head. And in the same way as those thoughts eventually became a physical reality, they became the iPhone. In the same way, the thoughts that you think on a daily basis become your reality. So if you are thinking negative thoughts on a daily basis, this over time eventually transforms itself into you living a life that you consider to be negative. And when this negativity goes on and 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 repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats and repeats, it eventually turns into depression. It turns into a life of complete negativity. So working on the premise that thoughts are things, Napoleon Hill said that your dominant thoughts become your reality. We can then understand that if we can change the thoughts, we can then change the reality. Now, I don't actually mean by that you can just think things into existence, okay? We're not talking about mind magic here where you begin to think something and it will appear in front of you. What I'm getting at is that the way you think about your life, so for example, if the persistent thoughts you have about your job are that you hate your job and you don't like it, when you go into work, you're going to hate it and you're not going to like it. So if you can change the way you think about your job, then you can change your experience around your job. And also take it further than that, you can actually change your job by the way you think. So all of this begins in the mind and the way in which you think, because your thoughts are things. And so in the next video, what we're going to be looking at is how this non-physical part of your self, your mind, how it works, and understand how you have control over it. See you in the next video.